On July 30th, 2025, the ground deep beneath the Pacific Ocean began to tremble violently. A massive earthquake, with a magnitude of 8.8, struck off the coast of Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula. This was not just any earthquake, it was one of the strongest the world has seen in many years. The shaking started very close to the surface of the seafloor, only about 19 kilometers deep. When earthquakes happen at such a shallow depth, their energy is felt much more powerfully on the surface and can create enormous problems. This incredible event was so strong that it sent shock waves not just through the ground but across the entire Pacific Ocean, putting millions of people on high alert. The location of the earthquake is very important. It happened in a place called the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench. This is a very deep part of the ocean where two of the Earth's giant tectonic plates meet. The Pacific Plate is slowly sliding underneath the Okhotsk Plate in a process that builds up immense pressure over many, many years. When that pressure is suddenly released, it causes a huge earthquake. This region is part of the Ring of Fire, a famous area around the Pacific Ocean known for its frequent volcanic eruptions and earthquakes. The power of this particular quake was so great that it was the strongest to hit this part of Russia since 1952, making it a major historical event. The first place to feel the earthquake's full force was, of course, Russia. The shaking was felt strongly in coastal towns, but the bigger danger came from the ocean. Soon after the ground stopped moving, the sea began to react. In the port town of Severokurilsk, the water pulled back from the shore before rushing in as a powerful tsunami. Waves as high as 4 meters or about 13 feet crashed into the coastline, flooding streets and buildings. Emergency alarms blared, and people had to quickly move to higher ground to escape the surging water. The immediate and powerful impact showed just how dangerous a quake of this size can be for anyone living near the coast. Because this earthquake was so powerful and happened under the ocean, scientists knew right away that a tsunami was possible. The United States Geological Survey, or USGS, quickly measured the quake's strength, first calling it an 8.0, then an 8.7, before settling on the final magnitude of 8.8. Each number represents a huge jump in power, so an M8.8 quake is truly gigantic. This immediate information was crucial for alerting countries all around the Pacific. The news spread rapidly, and emergency centers from Japan to the Americas began preparing for the waves that were already racing across the vast expanse of the ocean, traveling as fast as a jet plane. This powerful earthquake was a special kind called a megathrust earthquake. These are the most powerful earthquakes in the world. They happen at subduction zones, which are places where one of the Earth's tectonic plates is forced to slide underneath another. Think of it like pushing one giant rug under another one. For a long time the plates get stuck, and the pressure builds and builds. The plate on top gets bent downwards, storing up energy like a compressed spring. When the pressure becomes too much, the plates suddenly slip, and the top plate snaps back into place, releasing all that stored energy in a massive jolt. This sudden movement of the seafloor is what creates a tsunami. When a megathrust earthquake happens, a huge section of the ocean floor can be thrust upwards by several meters in just a few seconds. This violent uplift acts like a giant paddle, pushing the water above it upwards and creating a series of powerful waves. These waves are not like normal ocean waves, which are caused by wind and only affect the surface. Tsunami waves involve the entire column of water, from the seafloor to the surface. In the deep ocean, they can be very long and not very tall, but as they travel towards land and the water gets shallower, the waves slow down and grow much, much taller. The energy released by a megathrust quake is almost unimaginable. It can be hundreds or even thousands of times more powerful than smaller earthquakes. The 2011 earthquake in Japan and the 2004 earthquake in the Indian Ocean were also megathrust events, and both created devastating tsunamis that traveled across entire oceans. Because the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench is a very active subduction zone, scientists knew that a large earthquake there would have the potential to disrupt the entire Pacific. The shallow depth of the quake made this even more dangerous as more of the energy was transferred directly to the water above. Once the tsunami is created, it travels outward in all directions from the earthquake's epicenter. These waves can cross thousands of miles of open ocean without losing much of their energy. That is why an earthquake off the coast of Russia can pose a serious threat to places as far away as Hawaii, California, and even South America. Tsunami warning centers use computer models to predict how the waves will travel and when they will arrive at different coastlines. This gives people in distant places precious hours to prepare, evacuate, and move to safety before the first wave arrives. The science of plate tectonics and tsunami modeling is what makes these life-saving warnings possible. As soon as the M8.8 earthquake was detected, tsunami alerts spread like wildfire across the Pacific. In Japan, a country with extensive experience with tsunamis, authorities acted immediately. They issued warnings for potential waves up to 3 meters high along the northern coasts, especially in Hokkaido. In a massive and well-organized effort, over 900,000 residents in 133 different towns and cities were told to evacuate from low-lying coastal areas. Nuclear power plants, including the Fukushima facility, paused their operations and moved workers to safer locations as a precaution. The first waves to arrive in Japan were smaller, around 30 centimeters, but no one took any chances. Across the ocean in the United States, the warnings were just as serious. Hawaii was placed under a full tsunami warning, with officials expecting destructive waves to arrive in the evening. Sirens wailed across the islands and emergency alerts lit up phones, urging residents and tourists to leave beaches, harbors, and coastal homes immediately. People moved inland and to higher floors in tall buildings, creating long lines of traffic as they headed for safety. In Alaska, the Aleutian Islands, which are much closer to Russia, were also under a tsunami warning, with predictions of waves as high as 4 meters. The rest of the U.S. West Coast, including California, Oregon, and Washington, was put under a tsunami advisory for smaller but still dangerous waves of 1 to 3 feet. The alerts did not stop there. The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center issued bulletins for nearly every country bordering the vast ocean. Nations like Taiwan, the Philippines, Indonesia, and New Zealand all received warnings and activated their emergency plans. Even countries in Central and South America such as Mexico, Chile, and Ecuador were told to be on alert for rising sea levels and unusual currents. On Pacific islands like Guam, authorities closed beaches and harbors and told people to stay away from the water. The coordinated international effort showed how seriously the global community takes the threat of a Pacific-wide tsunami, learning from the hard lessons of past disasters. In each of these places, the response followed a similar pattern. Listen to the authorities and move away from the coast. People packed emergency kits, checked on their neighbors, and tuned in to news reports for the latest updates. On the U.S. West Coast, beaches were closed and people were warned to stay out of the water and away from piers and marinas, as even small tsunami waves can create incredibly strong and dangerous currents that can sweep people out to sea. The sight of empty beaches and harbors from Japan to California was a testament to how many people heeded the warnings, choosing caution and safety in the face of an uncertain threat. The work of emergency responders was critical in keeping people safe. From the moment the first alert was issued, governments and local authorities began a massive communication effort. They used every tool available, including television and radio broadcasts, social media updates, and mobile phone alerts, to make sure the warnings reached as many people as possible. In many coastal communities, loud sirens were activated, a clear and unmistakable signal for people to evacuate immediately. Emergency workers set up designated evacuation centers on higher ground, providing a safe place for people who had to leave their homes, and police helped manage traffic as people moved inland. A major concern after a large earthquake is the risk of aftershocks. These are smaller earthquakes that occur in the same area as the main shock as the Earth's crust adjusts to the massive shift. While they are weaker than the main event, aftershocks can still be very powerful and dangerous. Scientists warned that aftershocks from the M8.8 quake could reach magnitudes as high as 7.5, which is strong enough to cause more damage and even generate smaller, localized tsunamis. This meant that the danger was not over even after the first tsunami waves had passed. Authorities urged people to remain vigilant and stay away from the coast until the all-clear was given. It is important to remember that a tsunami is not a single wave but a series of waves, and the first wave is often not the strongest. Subsequent waves can arrive minutes or even hours later and can be much larger and more destructive. This is why emergency officials repeatedly told the public that the tsunami danger could persist for many hours. Rushing back to the coast too soon is one of the biggest mistakes people can make. Following the advice of emergency management agencies is the most important thing a person can do to stay safe. Their guidance is based on scientific data and is designed to protect lives. This massive earthquake and the Pacific-wide tsunami alert serve as a powerful reminder of nature's force and the importance of being prepared. Earthquakes and tsunamis can happen with very little warning, so having an emergency plan and a supply kit is essential for anyone living in a coastal or seismically active region. Knowing your local evacuation routes and listening to every instruction from authorities can make the difference between life and death. The successful evacuations and limited number of injuries from this event show that when people take warnings seriously and act quickly, communities can face down even the most powerful natural disasters and stay safe. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more insights on natural disasters and preparedness. Credit to the Objective Observer. 4. You for the research and updates. We love reading your comments, so share your thoughts and experiences below. Your engagement helps us bring more valuable content to the community. Stay safe, stay informed, and see you in the next video.